If you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted, someone you thought would never leave, then this story is for you. Pay attention, because sometimes life has a way of teaching us lessons we'd rather learn the hard way. I never thought I'd find myself in this situation, but here I am, sitting in the quiet of my small apartment, typing this out, hoping that sharing my experience might save someone else from heartbreak, or at least make them feel less alone when it happens. I met her 3 years ago. She had this laugh that could light up a room and eyes that seemed to see straight through me, reading the parts of me I didn't even know existed. Her name was Lily. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party, the kind of party where nobody really knows anyone. Yet somehow the room buzzed with energy that felt like it was just for us. From the first conversation, I felt connected to her in a way I couldn't explain. She was smart, witty, and had an energy that was impossible to ignore. I was immediately drawn to her, and I think she noticed. Our first few months together were what people call bliss. Every date felt like a scene from a movie: spontaneous road trips, late-night drives with the windows down, endless conversations that lasted till dawn. We had this rhythm that felt natural, as if we'd known each other forever. I can't lie, I fell hard, maybe harder than I ever should have. And I think she did too. I thought our bond was unshakable. Then things started to change. It wasn't sudden, more like a gradual drift. Texts that once came quickly now took hours. Dates that were once our priority started being postponed or canceled. I told myself it was nothing, that life gets busy, that people have off days. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. I just didn't know what yet. It was around that time she met him, someone rich, someone whose life seemed so different from mine. He was charming, confident, and he had money in ways that she probably had never seen me have. At first, I didn't want to believe it. I told myself she wouldn't leave me for someone else just because of wealth. But then the signs were impossible to ignore. I noticed her excitement when talking about him, the way she would casually mention dinners, trips, and gifts that I could never provide. It stung more than I wanted to admit. One evening, she didn't even bother to answer my calls. She just ghosted me, disappeared without explanation. At first, I thought maybe she was busy, maybe she was overwhelmed, maybe something serious had happened in her life. But days turned into weeks, and I realized she had chosen him over me. I was heartbroken. It wasn't just the rejection, it was the betrayal of trust, the feeling of being replaced. I tried to reach out, try to understand, try to get some closure, but every message went unanswered. She had moved on completely, and I was left picking up the pieces of a heart that didn't just ache, it shattered. I won't lie, it took me months to recover. I went through the stages of grief that I didn't even know applied to relationships. Denial, anger, bargaining, sadness, and finally, acceptance. I focused on myself, my work, my friends, anything that would pull me out of the endless loop of thinking about her. I stopped blaming myself, though it was hard. I realized that her leaving had nothing to do with my worth. It had everything to do with her choices. And sometimes, people make choices that hurt, even when they shouldn't. Then, out of nowhere, she reached out. I remember the day vividly. My phone buzzed, and her name flashed on the screen. My stomach sank, my heart skipped, and for a moment, I felt a mix of hope and dread. She didn't start with apologies or explanations. She started with a question. She needed help. The man she had left me for had left her. He had walked away just as easily, leaving her alone, feeling abandoned, the very feeling she had put me through. I read her message several times, trying to process what it meant. Part of me wanted to ignore it entirely. I had moved on, or at least I thought I had. Part of me wanted to reply, to offer her the kindness I had always felt for her, even when she didn't deserve it. I decided to answer, but cautiously. I didn't want to fall into the same trap of being her safety net, the person she comes back to when everything else fails. Her message was desperate. She talked about how alone she felt, how much she regretted her choices, how she didn't realize what she had until it was gone. She begged for advice, for support, for someone to listen. I listened because at the end of the day, I still cared for her. But I set boundaries. I made it clear that I wasn't going to pick up where we left off, that I wasn't going to be her fallback plan. I offered her friendship, guidance and perspective, but nothing more. It was painful to see her in that state. The person I once loved so deeply reduced to someone who had no one to turn to. But it also made me realize something important. Love is not about possession. Love is about respect, about trust, about being there for someone without using them as a means to an end. I had given her all of that when we were together, and yet she still chose someone else. That choice wasn't a reflection of my inadequacy. It was a reflection of her priorities. Over the next few weeks, she tried to pull me back into her life. She sent messages at odd hours, asked for advice on moving forward, on dealing with heartbreak, on rebuilding herself. Each time, I reminded her of the boundaries I'd set. I was not going to be her crutch. I was not going to be the one who fixed her mistakes. I had grown, I had healed, and I was determined not to regress. Through this, I learned more about myself than I ever thought possible. I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Forgiveness doesn't mean you open your heart again to someone who has proven they cannot respect it. Forgiveness is about releasing the hold that someone else's choices have on your life, about freeing yourself from anger and resentment so you can move forward. I forgave her, not for her sake, but for mine. I also realized the importance of self-respect. I had spent so much time trying to understand why she left, trying to rationalize her actions, trying to convince myself that maybe I could win her back if I just tried harder. But I couldn't. And that was the most liberating realization of all. Love doesn't have to hurt. And if it does, it's worth questioning why. I didn't need her validation anymore. I didn't need her approval. I didn't need her in my life to feel complete. Eventually, her messages became less frequent. She realized, perhaps, that I wasn't going to be her safety net anymore. And strangely, I felt relief. Relief not because I didn't care about her, but because I finally understood that I had my own life to live. I had my own happiness to pursue. I had my own future to build. And that future did not include someone who valued me only when convenient. Looking back, I don't regret meeting her, and I don't regret loving her. She taught me valuable lessons about trust, boundaries, and self-worth. She showed me that people will make choices that hurt you, and that's not always about you. It's about them. And most importantly, she taught me that no matter how deep the heartbreak, you can emerge stronger, wiser, and more self-aware than before. I want anyone reading this to understand one thing. Being left for someone else, being ghosted, being replaced, it is not the end of your story. It is a chapter, a painful one, but a chapter nonetheless. You will heal. You will grow. You will find people who value you for who you are, not for what you can provide. And when someone comes back into your life seeking help, remember your worth. Remember your boundaries. Compassion is one thing, but being someone's fallback is another. Don't confuse the two. In the end, life has a way of balancing itself out. People come and go, and sometimes the ones you love most teach you the lessons you needed in the harshest ways. And when the storm passes, you'll be left standing, stronger than before, ready for the chapters yet to be written. I'm not bitter, I'm not angry, and I'm certainly not regretful. I'm grateful for the lessons, for the growth, for the clarity that comes when you finally see things for what they truly are. So, if you're sitting there feeling abandoned, ghosted, or replaced, hear me clearly. Your worth is not defined by someone else's choices. You are not less because someone else failed to see your value. Hold your head high, set your boundaries, and live your life unapologetically. The right people will come, and when they do, they will stay. Not because of your wealth, your looks, or what you can give, but because they recognize the incredible person you are from the start. And for those who might be tempted to return to someone they left behind, remember, true love is not convenience. True love is commitment, respect, and consistency. You cannot take for granted the people who care for you, and you cannot expect them to be there when you return, especially if your absence was intentional. Learn from your mistakes, own your choices, and grow. And if the person you wronged forgives you, treat that forgiveness as the rare gift it is, not as an invitation to repeat history. Life moves on, with or without the people we thought were essential. But in moving on, we discover ourselves. We discover resilience, strength, and the capacity to love again, more wisely, more openly, and with the kind of clarity that only experience can provide. And that, ultimately, is the lesson worth remembering from heartbreak. It is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a wiser, stronger, and more self-aware chapter of your life. If my story resonates with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Reach out to those who might be struggling, and remind them that their worth is unwavering, their value unshakable, and their future still bright. Heartbreak is not permanent. Growth is, strength is, and life. Life is still waiting for you to write the best chapters yet.